And I'm not staring into the camera.
No,
I'm just,
the whole time,
I'm speaking to
or
her.
just whoever, but not the camera.
Yeah.
We're not here.
So I'm excited to be here this morning.
I am
It's
too.
ought to be an interesting conversation. My name is Erik Frederickson, and I'm in April I'll be 10 years clean and sober.
Congratulations! I love hearing that.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was you know, when you're caught in the middle of it as someone in addiction, it's like there's no way out. There's no way out of it. You hear the stories, you hear this, but you're so confined and caught in it that it's difficult to see a real way out. And so to be sitting where I'm sitting right now with a judge, having gone through the system myself and being on the other side is it's just a bit strange in a very good way.
You've never been in front of me. So I'm Nan von Allman. I'm the judge of the New Philadelphia Municipal Court. And since you've been clean and sober for 10 years, and I've only been on the bench in New Philadelphia, 2003 as a magistrate and then 2011 as a judge, I've not had you in front of me. You know, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you because sometimes I'll be in the grocery store and I'll see someone who I've had in court, and maybe it's a good encounter, maybe it's a bad encounter, but if they do tell me that they're clean, they're always happy, you know, to let me know that, and I'm happy to hear it, but I never really get to ask the questions. When I'm up on the bench, I ask questions all the time, but I know I'm just being told what I want to hear. So yeah. I think I'm going to learn something, and I hope that the folks that are watching us are going to learn something, you know, about how we do recovery court in this community, what you saw as the benefits and the detriments of going through the system, and you know what was it that finally clicked with you that made you decide, I don't want to go to jail anymore. I don't want to do this.
Well, jail's not fun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's not supposed to be, right?
Exactly. It's not supposed to be. I mean, my own personal story. It's interesting how there's so many conversations swirling about right now because of issue 1. And I definitely understand the pressing need to begin to look at it different and say, okay, well, what can we do to change this? Because the problem's getting worse. So what is it that needs to shift? But looking at it from my perspective of going through 13 years of, as bad as you can imagine, addiction, suicide attempts, watching over 30 of my friends die, I kind of stopped counting, but from car accidents, suicide, overdoses, everything that's involved with it, and going through all of that, you're always getting caught. You're always coming back in to the court system. One of the things, I'll speak for me personally, one of the biggest things that really brought me to the point of looking at myself in the mirror, so I tell people all the time that their biggest hesitancy towards recovery is they don't want to face themselves.
Right.
That's the thing, is you got to look at you, and nobody wants to do that. Nobody that's been through years of watching friends die, the family, the chaos, the destruction, the stealing, go on and on and on, kids, everything you can imagine. Nobody wants to really sit down and be like, whew, I'm the problem. I've heard you mention multiple times, there is a very real disconnect. I mean, their mind has been flooded with hard drugs. I mean, I remember the judge, and I could still say his name, I won't, but he did not like me. He did not like me. And I remember the thought of going before him was just like, oh my gosh, I need to figure out a way to just, I need to just work more. I need to just do something. I need to figure out some sort of substitute so I can stop this, because I don't want to face.
Well, did you try to figure out, I'm going to assume that you tried to figure out what you thought he wanted to hear. So what person did he want you to be?
Yeah. Oh man, I could tell you exactly what the courts wanted to hear and how to say it, how to dress, the right people that get, you know, if I needed a note from somebody, I could get it, just make sure I knew the right person to get it from, you know. I knew how to play the system, but I never got clean and sober. I never did. It was back in front of him because of a DUI.
Well, I think it's funny to hear you say that you knew how to play the system, because I think a few minutes ago I heard you say that you have been in jail multiple times.
Yeah, exactly.
So how successfully? Yeah.
How successful is anyone at playing the system?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I look, that is a good point. You know, I was playing the system back in jail, back on probation, back on, you know. It was as if I created enough of a cushion to just appease them and still do what I wanted, thinking I was getting away with living a good life.
I feel like there's a lot of rationalization that goes on. You know, I have a very good friend, Marianne Audie, who I think you know. She lost her son, Joe, at age 31. And one of the last interactions I had with Marianne and Joe was sitting in my office trying to convince him that he needed to go to detox because you could look at him and see that he was on death's door. And he had so many reasons why he was ready, but he wasn't ready yet.
For someone that can't control it, you know, there does need to be the option of life or death. There needs to be, I mean, essentially that's what it is. There needs to be, you know, saying like in you working with the courts, or it's, hey, here is opportunity to change. We'll do everything we can to help you. We'll do everything we can to walk you through this, to do everything within our power to get you help. Or you need to face the consequences of your actions. And I guess I have a little bit of a different perspective. I mean, I look at it like people say, well, you know, we need to stop punishing these people. And I'm like, are they being punished, or are they choosing their consequences? Is that really is that really a punishment, or is that the consequences of their actions? That's the way it works. For me, I was drinking myself to death in a little apartment in the middle of nowhere, and I was so miserable. I had gotten 9 months before, and
9 months sober.
Yeah, and I had gotten 2 weeks, and then 3 months, and then I'd managed to do it, but the root of it never got dealt with. It was always coming back. It was always coming, and then when it comes back, I'm sure you've seen this by now. Every time it comes back, it's worse than before.
Because the guilt and the you know, self-loathing, I think. I don't know. I'm completely speaking out of turn here, but it just seems like it just compounds itself. Like I've let everybody down again, and people will apologize to me in court, and I say this all the time. Why are you apologizing to me? I'm not the one that you're hurting. I'm not the one who is not going to be able to go home and make supper for her husband and go out and walk with my dog in the wood. You're apologize to yourself, because you're the one that is being hurt, and you're the one that you need to help.
It's interesting because it was about maybe 2.5 weeks ago now. My friend, who has been a pharmacist in Ohio for roughly 25 years now. So he's seen the opioid thing, and then the result of heroin because of that. He's seen it all come in, and he gave me a call, and he never just calls me like early in the morning. I knew he was at work, so I was like, let me answer and see what's going on here. And he called me, and there was a escalation in his voice and everything. I was like, what's going on, man? And he told me how he had just got off the phone with an Ohio State trooper, and he began to tell me about this issue 1. He began to tell me about, not entirely, but almost decriminalizing drugs. You know, he began to tell me about like almost no consequences and no leverage for the courts to put people in treatment. He began to explain the whole thing to me. And I was shocked. Having been someone that came through the system and having faced that moment where I really, the cycle was just continuous. And having come to the moment where, again, I was faced with go to jail or change. We'll do everything we can to help you change, or the consequences will get more severe. And I looked back and I said to myself, that was such a gift in disguise. That was such a gift in my life, because I had seen so many people die. I was lucky to still be alive and have the circumstances in front of me. And he began telling me, and my first response is just not that. I don't see how that is going to help people be forced with the decision. You have to decide here: consequences or get help. And I began to think through it over the coming days. And then the privilege came up of speaking at the press conference with you guys, and it's been such a full circle. 180, I guess, is a better way to say it, to come to now be working with people and have this perspective of what it's like on the inside, and be someone who's gone through it and be free on the other side, helping to get people through this process and looking at what issue 1 is presenting and saying to myself, I don't think that is right there is going to help people, help the addicts really step into a place of taking responsibility.
We just had a graduation several weeks ago, a young man, probably your age. He has a family, has a good job now. He has his children with him. And yet what he said in his graduation remarks was that, yeah, I was probably one of the worst people in this program when I started out in terms of faking it till you make it. You know, and you know, we're all about treatment and guiding people and helping them, but there's also consequences. So the best practice, and there's been study after study, you know, and maybe you don't even need a study to tell you, it's just common sense. There's nothing else in life where if you don't make the right choice, there's a potential consequence.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't make the right, if you eat too much, the consequence is you might gain weight. You know, I mean, everybody understands cause and effect. But with this issue 1, I don't understand why they had to swing the pendulum. There's no doubt that there's need in Ohio and elsewhere for prison reform. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. And I think there needs to be a conscious and thoughtful way for the citizens of the state to have a conversation and accomplish that. But why did they have to swing the pendulum all the way that now all of the, and let's just say it, drug dealers, 20 grams of cocaine, heroin,
That's
Rufinol.
not a daily user. That's a dealer.
I mean, you know, because you were a daily user.
Yes.
That is not for personal use. Why did they have to then make that, okay, if you want to make it a misdemeanor, why are you taking away any possibility of any consequence? Even, for example, if someone's in recovery court and they violate the terms. We have a schedule of sanctions. That's supposed to be one of the things that issue 1 is about, is graduated sanctions. Well, if you're taking away, I have a whole schedule of sanctions, one of which could be if you mess up this time and the next time, you know that the next consequence could be jail. You know that, so you avoid that, you know. So we do a lot of positive reinforcement, but you know, a rat will walk across an electrified grid to press a bar to get water that has heroin in it. They will do untold damage to themselves until they die.
And everyone around them.
Yeah, and so that's what addicts do. They walk. They might not walk over an electrified grid, although sometimes it almost looks like it's to that point that they'd be willing to do that. They'll walk away from their families, they'll walk away from their children, they'll lose their jobs, they lose their vehicles, they lose their housing, and still, you know, because I used to be that person that would say, oh my gosh, why don't you just quit? You have lost everything, why don't you just quit? So, you know, not having any consequence, if you're willing to give up all those things, no matter what your mother begs you to do, no matter what your children cry for you to do, where's the end point? You know, does it have to be that the person has to die? I'd like to think that we can intervene before that.
Do everything we can to intervene at least before that.
Yeah, and you lay out all the possibilities of all the tools, all the things that you can do to help yourself. But if you're not going to do that, you know, I tell people all the time, listen, people are tired of living in a community where there are addicts overdosing in cars in the parking lot at the grocery store.
At a red light.
Or needles, you know, on the side. Nobody wants to live like that. So it's going to stop, and either you're going to be an active participant in stopping it, or I'm going to have to take you off the street. Because, you know, the shortest, what do they say the shortest passage in the New Testament is? Jesus wept.
The shortest verse,
Yeah, shortest verse.
Yeah.
So the shortest statute, I think, in the Ohio Revised Code is a sentencing statute that judges have to follow, which is the purpose of sentencing is punish and protect the public. That's what the whole thing says. So we're going to give you treatment to protect the public, and if you don't accept it, then I'm going to protect the public by taking you off the street. I don't understand, I'm not doing it to be punitive.
No.
I'm doing it because that's the job I was elected to do, and now they want to take that away. I don't understand. David Haverfield from Job and Family Services told us, and I think he's right, because he's there every day doing it, seeing it, that we are in danger of losing an entire generation if people don't get better. So I'm all about treatment, and I want people to get better, and I want them to take care of their kids. I don't want kids to grow up, just this empty vessel and nothing good ever goes in there. Just, if you just fill it up with garbage, that child has no chance of ever being happy in their lives. So I want their parents to get better. But I want to help them get to that point, not to be punitive, not because it makes me happy, not because I think the jail should be full. I see this stuff about, well, there's private prisons and everybody. That's nonsense. And I think you had said, I don't know, what were the judges like that you encountered? Were they punitive? Did you feel like they wanted to help, even if you weren't there yet?
They were very straight to the point and strict, and they would call you right in front of the whole courtroom on your pattern of lies. They had no problem doing that. But what they also did was this. What they also said was, if they saw a real change happening, if they saw it was genuine, if they could track it through the drug court, or talking to your employer, or being able to just talk to you and see that you're genuine in your heart, like if they were able to really see it, they can do everything they can, off probation early, to lower fines, to help you out. They're going to do everything they can, even expunging offenses that have come against you, because they want people changed. They want to see communities safer and healthier. And they did, and I saw them time and time again do that with people over and over and over again that were serious about it. Even people that were serious about it, and then they slipped up. They would they wouldn't just let them off scot-free, but they would walk with them because they can see the progress being made.
I mean, I don't think there's anything comparable.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm being as vocal as I can about it, because so many people actually don't know what the bill says. They just hear the advertisement that says, we want to get them out of jail, save money, get them into treatment. Well, have you really read the bill? Because it doesn't necessarily say that. And the more I talk to it about people, the more they're like, really? That's what they're proposing, really?
Right, and when you go in to vote, because I've already voted, but when you go in to vote, there's just a summary of language. So it really is important for people to read the entire bill, because there are going to be things in there that you agree with. There are things in there that I agree with, but there are going to be things that you disagree with. The problem is that when it is a constitutional amendment embedded in stone in the Ohio Constitution, that's it. That's what we're going to do. And if that's what happens, that's what I'm going to do every day. But the fact of the matter is that you cannot go in and tweak it or change it. So if there's anything, when you read the bill, and I hope, the amendment, I hope everyone does, if there's anything in there that you don't agree with, you got to vote no. Because if you vote yes, it's all coming. I don't get to pick and choose. Nobody does. On what we enforce and what we don't, or whether we have discretion. That's it. So it's just an unworkable scenario, in my opinion, for what I have been working so hard to do with my recovery court, and just the whole philosophy of my court is going to be, I feel like.
And I commend you for the work that you have been doing, and I would say change does need to come, but the answer to issue one is no. No, absolutely not on issue one.
I agree, and I just want to thank you for, because I could probably say it till I'm blue in the face, But I think what you have to say carries so much more weight and credibility because you lived it. And I just thank you so much for coming to the table on this, literally and figuratively.
Well, thank you. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Good job.
Cut.
Think we're good?